My world shattered on a Tuesday. Not with a bang, but with a quiet notification on my laptop. We had a shared family cloud account, something we set up years ago for photos and documents. I was looking for an old tax return when I saw a folder I didn't recognize, simply labeled projects. Curiosity got the better of me. I clicked. What I found wasn't project proposals or spreadsheets. It was a life I never knew my wife Sarah was living. Photos, videos, chat logs. A whole secret world with another man. His name was Mark. They weren't just sneaking around. They had a whole life. Trips to places I'd always wanted to take her, dinners at restaurants we'd talked about trying, even pictures with his family at holiday gatherings. They looked happy, like a real couple. A wave of nausea hit me so hard I had to grip the desk to stay upright. Every memory we'd built over 15 years suddenly felt like a lie. Every "I love you," every shared laugh, every promise for the future, was it all just for show? My first instinct was pure, white-hot rage. I wanted to smash the laptop, to confront her, to scream until my throat was raw. But as I scrolled through years of their hidden life, a cold, chilling calm washed over the anger. A simple confrontation wouldn't be enough. It wouldn't even begin to cover the depth of this betrayal. She hadn't just cheated. She had built an entire parallel existence. A simple divorce felt like letting her off easy. No, if she could live a double life, then I could play a long game. But my revenge wouldn't be a fiery explosion. It would be a slow, calculated demolition of the world she thought she controlled. The first step was to act completely normal. That night, when she came home from a late meeting at work, which I now knew was a dinner with Mark, I greeted her with a smile and a kiss. I asked about her day. I listened to her fabricated stories, nodding along, my heart a block of ice in my chest. It was the hardest acting job of my life. Every loving gesture felt like poison, but I knew it was necessary. To win this war, I had to become the perfect, unsuspecting husband. Phase 2 was information gathering. I became a digital ghost. I used my IT skills to discreetly gain access to everything: her personal email, her social media, her bank accounts. I learned every detail about Mark. He was a wealthy architect, single, and utterly smitten with the version of Sarah he knew. I learned about their plans. They were saving up to buy a house together, a beautiful lakeside property they'd been eyeing. They were planning to break the news to me after the new year, when Sarah would leave me, taking half of everything we owned with her. The audacity was breathtaking. While she was planning her exit, I was planning my counter-offensive. I started quietly moving our assets. I opened new bank accounts in my name only. I consulted a lawyer, the best one I could find, and laid out the entire situation, providing him with a mountain of meticulously organized evidence. He was impressed, to say the least. He drafted a divorce petition that was, in his words, ironclad. It detailed her long-term affair and outlined how her infidelity voided her claim to many of our shared assets under a specific clause in our prenuptial agreement. Clause she'd laughed at when we signed it, calling it unromantic. Who was laughing now? I also started playing a more personal game. I knew from her texts with Mark that she was worried I might be getting suspicious, so I did the opposite. I became the most attentive, romantic husband imaginable. I bought her flowers, planned surprise date nights to places she hated but pretended to love, and talked endlessly about our future, renewing our vows, buying a bigger house, a trip to Europe. I could see the conflict in her eyes. On one hand, she was getting everything she ever wanted from me. On the other, it was making her feel guilty and complicating her escape plan with Mark. I was subtly turning her own deception against her. The most satisfying part of my plan involved Mark. I created a fake online profile, a beautiful woman with a career in architectural design. I initiated contact with him, talking about his work, stroking his ego. It was disgustingly easy. He was so eager for admiration. We exchanged messages for weeks. I learned his weaknesses, his insecurities, his financial vulnerabilities. He complained that Sarah was taking too long to leave her boring, clueless husband. The irony was so thick, I could barely contain my laughter. The final act was set for our 16th anniversary. I booked a table at the most exclusive, expensive restaurant in the city, the same one she and Mark had celebrated their unofficial anniversary at a month prior. I told her to dress up, that it was a huge surprise. She was visibly torn, knowing she had plans to see Mark later that night. But she couldn't say no without raising suspicion. We sat at a secluded table. The evening was a masterpiece of fake sentimentality. I gave a toast to honesty and trust, the foundation of our marriage. I watched her squirm. Then, for the grand finale, I handed her a beautifully wrapped gift. She opened it, a confused look on her face. It wasn't jewelry or a designer bag. It was a single key on a simple ring. "What's this for?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "It's for your new life," I said, my voice calm and even, slid a thick manila envelope across the table. "I think you'll need it." Her hands shook as she opened the envelope. Inside were 2 sets of documents. The first was a printout of her chat logs with Mark, complete with photos of them together. The second was the divorce petition my lawyer had filed that very morning. Her face went from pale to ghostly white. She looked up at me, her eyes wide with panic and disbelief. "How?" she whispered. "You have 30 days to vacate the house," I continued, ignoring her question. "All our joint accounts have been frozen. Your personal belongings will be delivered to an address of your choosing. I'd suggest Mark's place, but I'm not sure how welcome you'll be." "What are you talking about?" she stammered. I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot. It was a message from the fake profile I'd created, sent to Mark just an hour earlier. It contained a few choice photos of him and Sarah, along with a simple message: "I thought you said you were single." I guess my husband and I were both wrong about our partners. She tried to speak, but no words came out. I stood up, placed enough cash on the table to cover the bill, and looked down at her one last time. The woman I had loved for half my life was now just a stranger who had made a terrible miscalculation. "Happy anniversary, Sarah," I said. Then I turned and walked out of the restaurant without looking back. I didn't feel anger or sadness anymore. All I felt was the quiet, satisfying peace of a plan perfectly executed. Revenge wasn't about shouting and fighting. It was about taking back control, about ensuring that the person who tried to destroy your world ends up with nothing but the rubble of their own making. My old life was over, but my new one, a life built on truth and self-respect, was just beginning. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, know that you're not alone and you have the strength to rebuild. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content. See you next time.